So what about if your kids encounter a police officer on the street? How should they comport themselves? How should they conduct themselves? My name is Brian L. Jackson. I am an attorney in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And today, this one's another one for you parents out there. So last time I talked about what to do about if your child, what to teach your child about traffic stops. Today, I want to talk about another situation that sometimes comes up, which is if your child is approached by the police on the street. Now, some of the same rules apply in this scenario, but there's another one that I would also suggest. Now to start with, again, do not talk to the cop. If you did not call them yourself and you don't need their help, you are under no obligation to talk to them, so don't. You should assert your right to remain silent. Now, you should do this respectfully, but you should assert your right to remain silent. And specifically, again, what you want to say is, officer, with all due respect, because I know you have a job to do, I'm going to decline to answer any questions. And if they push you, it should be, I'm going to decline to answer any questions. I'd like an attorney right now. Now, another way you can also end the encounter is by asking the cop, am I free to leave? Am I being detained, or am I free to leave? If they tell you you're being detained, then you need to really stand on your rights and say, well, I have nothing to say, officer. I want a lawyer right now. And then you don't say anything else. If they tell you you're free to leave, then you leave. Now, sometimes what can happen too, and if the cops approach you and stop you, is they will pat you down. Now, this is what's called a Terry stop and frisk. The first thing to know about that is if the cops are going to pat you down, you do not physically resist for any reason. If you touch a cop, you will go to jail. That can be considered a felony, and you will go to jail. Also, it may provoke aggression by the cop. You could end up getting pepper sprayed. You could get tasered. They could draw their gun. So do yourself a favor. Do not ever try to physically resist. You can tell the officer verbally only that you are complying. However, you do not consent to any searches. That will clearly assert your Fourth Amendment privilege against unlawful searches and seizures, unreasonable searches and seizures. If the cops claim they found something on you, shut it. They ask you, is this yours? Shut it. Again, I'm going to decline to answer any questions, officer. I want a lawyer right now. And I would also, again, as soon as you are able to, ask them if you're free to leave or if you're being detained. And if you're free to leave, leave. A couple of kind of things to be aware of as far as being out on the streets. You can sometimes be approached by the cops on suspect of suspicion of criminal activity if you are found to be in places that are suspicious or in circumstances that are suspicious. What do I mean? Well, if you are in close proximity to somebody who's smoking a joint, for example, or smoking cigarettes and looks underage, somebody who appears to be intoxicated, you may also get detained and questioned because you were there. If there's a fight, we all know how this works for kids in the schoolyard. There's a fight and everybody runs around because they want to see what's going on. Smartest thing you can teach your child in that situation is to head the opposite direction and don't turn around. You walk away. Because if the cops show up to break up the fight and your kid's there, they're probably going to get detained and questioned at the very least, and they run the risk of potentially getting swept up in if there's a bunch of arrests. Now, that may go away later in court, but ideally, a lot of the reason for this advice is to keep your kid out of court and to keep them from getting arrested or cited. Because even if it's bullshit, it still costs you money to defend it. It could be a traumatic experience for your child, especially if this is a child who's had no experience with law enforcement. And it's just not a cool situation. So the idea is to avoid it. And that part of that also means your child should learn. You should teach your kids to use good judgment. Do not be hanging around in situations where there's suspicious activities going on. And usually, if it's something that doesn't feel right, it's probably a good idea not to be around that. If it's something where they know, where they think, oh crap, I could get in trouble if my parents find out, probably not a good idea to hang around. And certainly if there's violence going on, if somebody is smoking, drinking, or doing drugs, they need to get out of that situation. And guys, again, if you come into a situation where you have concern, you have questions about this, you have concerns, or your child has been brought into a situation where they have been arrested, they have been cited, then you need to meet with counsel. And I'd be happy to talk to you. I'm an attorney with the firm of Fry and Elder, and I can be reached at area code 918-585-1107. And I'd be happy to talk to you about your situation under Oklahoma law. Thanks, guys.